Good evening, everybody. I'm Stephen Fogarty. I'm the attorney for the Hillsborough School District, and I'd like to call this meeting to order this evening. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on December 30th, 2021 to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mr. Kidd?
Here.
Mr. Merlini?
Here.
Ms. Nurse?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Hio?
Here.
We have a plan.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. May we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? You'd all rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business for us this evening is to announce the election results. And I will read off the candidates and the total ballots cast. Elaine Jackson, 7,542 votes cast. Christoph Golas, 4,905 votes cast. Jason R. Albanese, 6,547 votes cast. Allison Lanning Becker, 6,668 votes cast. And there were 1,853 write-in votes cast. To be appointed to the vacancies on the board are Elaine Jackson, Jason R. Albanese, and Allison Lanning Becker. I now have the privilege of administering the oath of office to both of the candidates who are here in the audience this evening. One of our candidates is not here. We will address that issue after these candidates are sworn in. So I'd like to do this in alphabetical order. That seems to be the most democratic way. So that would be Mr. Albanese first. Mr. Albanese, raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me, please. I, Jason R. Albanese,
I, Jason R. Albanese,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same,
and to the governments established
to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and this state
and this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I,
I,
Jason R. Albanese,
Jason R. Albanese,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of a member of the Board of Education,
for the office of a member of the Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter,
nor disqualified due to a conviction of a crime or offense. Sure. Nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of that office according to the best of my ability.
of that office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And because despite all the instructions that I received, I didn't do it the way they wanted it done, so they want you on camera. So would you just stand here? Congratulations.
Thank you.
I, Elaine Jackson, do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and this state,
and this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I, Elaine Jackson,
I, Elaine Jackson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of the Board of Education.
for the office of a member of the Board of Education,
That I am not disqualified as a voter
and that I am not disqualified as a voter,
or disqualified due to conviction of crime
nor disqualified due to conviction of crime
or any offense,
or any offense,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully
impartially,
and impartially
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You may take your seat. You're welcome.
Elaine?
Our first order of business before we conduct the election for the office of President and Vice President is we have a board member a board member-elect candidate, Allison Laney Beater, and I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, who is not able to join us here this evening, but would like to participate remotely. And by remotely, I mean telephonically. The board has a bylaw that allowed board members to participate remotely when the board was remote due to during the height of the pandemic. That bylaw expired by its own terms. So in order for Ms. Vider to participate with the board this evening, the board would have to take action by a majority of its membership to allow that telephonic participation. So I would ask of the members of the board if someone would please make a motion to permit Ms. Allison Laney Vider the ability to participate telephonically.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Is this just for this one meeting, or is this going to sunset right after this meeting, or is there an expiration date on this?
This motion will only affect this individual's ability to participate this evening. So the board does not currently have a bylaw or a policy that allows board members to participate remotely or telephonically. The bylaw that you had a sunset provision that expired on June 30th, 2021. So after this evening, the board, my suggestion is that the board's policy committee take up the issue of whether and under what circumstances board members should be permitted to participate remotely going forward. But in answer to your question, sir,
Thank you.
this is only for tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, any other discussion on the motion? No other discussion being heard, then I'd ask Ms. Rodriguez to call the roll, please.
Mr. Albany?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
No.
Ms. Jackson? Yes. Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Ian?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask for some assistance in terms of the logistics of having Ms. Vider participate with us telephonically. And I see Trustee Triola getting her on a cell phone. Thank
We can't zoom this in.
Good evening, Ms. Vider.
Yes, it's Lanning Peter.
Peter, I'm sorry, I was pronouncing your name incorrectly. This is Stephen Fogarty. I'm the attorney for the school district. And the board has just approved a resolution that will allow you to participate in this meeting telephonically. You will need to be present for the entire meeting, both the public session and the executive session. And I just want to confirm that you're in a safe, in a private location for the entirety of this meeting.
That is correct.
So the first order of business then for me is to swear you in. So I'm going to ask you if you would please raise your right hand, and I apologize that nobody is here to actually see you do this, but in any event, I would ask you to repeat after me. I, I, Allison Lanning-Biter,
I, Allison Lanning
Peter, got it right this time, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and to the governments established in the United States
to the same and the governments established in the United States
and this state
and this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I, and state your name again, please,
I, Allison Lanning,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense,
nor disqualified due to conviction
of a
Sorry,
crime,
can you repeat?
of course,
Of a crime
or offense, and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform all the duties
and justly perform all the duties
of that office
of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome to the board. You're welcome. The next order of business is to elect a president to the Hillsborough Board of Education for the next term. And this individual will serve until the next reorganization of the board. And at this time, I would ask for nominations for the office of president. I'm sorry, yes.
I'd like to nominate Paul Marini as president.
I'd like to second that nomination.
No second is required. So, but are there other nominations for the office of president? Yes,
I
trustee
nominate
Joyla.
myself for board president.
Are there any other nominations for president? Seeing none, then under the board's policy, everybody must, all of the members of the board must cast their vote for either of the individuals who have been nominated. That would be Mr. Marini and Ms. Troiello. So I'm going to ask Ms. Rodriguez if she would call the roll.
Excuse me, Mr. Fogarty, is there an opportunity for the candidates to make a statement?
I'm sorry?
Is there an opportunity for the candidates to make a statement?
Of course.
Mr. Marini, would you care to go first? Okay. So what I wanted to speak to the board members about quickly, I will not take too long, just a reflection on the past year, 2021, how far we've come as a board, building the relationships, keeping the board well informed in my role as board president, attending committee meetings, explaining the reasons for certain decisions, really proud of the respectful board meetings that we've had, and then culminating in 2021 in early December with a signed MOA with the association. In mid-December, when I received new information about the business office, I acted swiftly. And so going into 2022, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in figuring out what's going on in the district, and then also more importantly, refocusing on student achievement and doing what's best for the kids. So tonight, I'm asking for each board member to reflect on what is best for Hillsborough. Our styles are different, I would say. My style, my way of working is to praise publicly and to ask those hard questions privately. Tone and words matter. They matter a great deal. And my style is not to light a fire under anyone because I don't believe that's productive. And that's not how I want to be treated. So in this critical time for our district, with an absence of administrators, 3 brand-new board members, 3 board members with 1 year of experience, this board needs an experienced president who can do the work and not just delegate. And it's not about who has the votes, because that's out of your control. Each board member needs to decide independently which candidate they believe will lead in the best interest of our students and our district. It is your obligation as a board member to think independently. This vote is too important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marini, would you like to make a statement?
Sure. To the fellow board members, I believe that given the situations we are in now, I believe a change in leadership is necessary. My background in my professional life is that of compliance, and that is my focus on audits and compliance and investigations. I believe that given the scenario that we're in right now, I believe that is a benefit. I also do not believe that we had the focus on communication that was clearly the mandate from the last election. And I hope to drive better communication with the community on all topics. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Ms. Rodriguez if she would please call the roll, and I would ask that board members, consistent with the board's bylaw, that you state your vote for either Mr. Marini or Ms. Traiello. And Ms. Rodriguez, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Albanese?
My vote's for Mr. Marini.
Mr. Gillette?
Mr. Marini.
Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Marini.
Mr. Kidd?
Mr. Marini.
Ms. Allison Peter?
Mr. Marini.
Ms. Peter cast her vote for Mr. Marini.
Ms. Nurse?
Mr. Marini.
Mr. Oliver?
Mr. Marini.
Ms. Trujillo?
For myself, thank you.
And Mr. Marini.
Mr. Marini.
Mr. Marini cast his vote. Congratulations, sir. You are the president of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take the seat, and would you please call for the election of the vice president? Oh, get out of your flag. Congratulations. Execute.
Speak there. Great, thank you. Hello and welcome. We will now move on to the election for the vice president. Would like to take any nominations? Mr. Gillette?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Oliver for Vice President.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. I believe now this is a yes or no vote. Is in the bylaws?
Yes, each board member casts a vote. Notwithstanding, there's only one candidate. It's really an affirmation, but we should go through the formality.
Okay, great. Ms. Rodriguez?
Mr. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, we will now take a motion to move into executive session. I'll read the following. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the bylaws of 1975 provide that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of the meeting which the public body discusses certain matters for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act, resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Hillsborough in the County of Somerset and State of New Jersey as follows. 1, the matters to be discussed are legal, personnel, and contract matters. 2, the matters discussed in executive session shall be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I get a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr.
All in favor?
Oliver. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will return at approximately 7:30 from public session. Thank you. All right, welcome back. The Hillsborough Board of Education meeting is back in session. Ms. Rodriguez, can we take roll?
Mr. Albany?
Here.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Ms. Jackson? Mr. Kidd?
Here.
Ms. Peter?
Here.
Mr. Marini?
Here.
Ms. Nurse?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Keo?
Here.
Ms. Jackson?
Here.
We have a-
a quorum.
All right, thank you. Welcome back. We are going to move on to the board president's report. And for this, we are going to name the committees for this year. For this year, we're going to be combining committees. The combination will include HR and communications as one committee. The chair for the HR will be Mr. Oliver. With Mr. Albanese, communications will be the vice chair, Ms. Nurse, and Mr. Marini. Education will be its own. Mr. Kidd will chair. Ms. Jackson will vice. Ms. Bader will be on that, as well as Mr. Oliver. We will be combining ops and finance into one. For ops, the chair will be Mr. Gillette with Mr. Kidd, with Ms. Trujillo as the vice chair, chair of finance, with Mr. Marini. And for governance, the chair will be Mr. Marini, vice chair, Mr. Gillette, Mr. Kidd, and Ms. Trujillo. For liaisons, Ms. Jackson will be home and school. Mr. Kidd will be the township liaison. Mr. Albanese will be ESC. Ms. Trujillo will have legislative rep and municipal alliance and Garden State Coalition of Schools. Mr. Marini will be the NJSBA delegate, and Ms. Bader will be the Sustainable Hillsborough representative. That concludes the board president's report. We have motion 8.1 to approve regular meeting schedule. We'll be amending this to include a session for next Monday, the 10th, which will be primarily for executive session, but we will open the meeting in public. Can I get a motion in a second?
So move.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Albany?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Keo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now we will review we will have a motion to approve minutes. 9.1, motion to approve executive session minutes, and 9.2, motion to approve regular meeting minutes. Can I get a motion in a second?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, can I get a roll?
Mr. Albany?
Abstain.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Abstain.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter?
I abstain.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Keo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. All right, so we will now move on to correspondence. We'd like to acknowledge the correspondence is listed.
Excuse me, regular meeting minutes. I believe that was just executive. Or did
Sorry?
we do both? Was the motion previously on the table was for executive minutes?
Oh, yeah, we included both. The previous one included
Okay,
both.
thank you.
Yes. So we will now review the correspondence as listed. Can I get a motion in a second? No? We don't have to. We don't have to do that? Okay, great. Learn as I go. All right. So we'll move on to committee reports. Don't think we have any. No, we do. We do? We do. So I will cover the Education Committee minutes. All were in attendance. We covered a couple of items. First, policies for regulation and review. They were standard updates that came to the district. Those were accepted, and they will be moved forward for first reading tonight. We did have a course title change. So there is a course called Study Skills, and previously that was by grade level. Now we're going to have a progression, Study Skills 1, 2, and 3, so that students may be placed in their appropriate level and can move swiftly through study skills as necessary. And that'll be on the board approval for tonight. New course proposal, Technology Society and Careers class, that is also on the agenda for tonight. In addition, we discussed the ASI to RTI transition, as well as the school calendar for 2022, 2023, and as well as grade class sizes for 5 through 8, which was requested from a previous education discussion. And then discussions regarding presentations about equity, racism, and diversity in the curriculum, which will be, I believe, presented today as well. And, National Day of Healing proclamation. And that's it.
I have a question about education. The new course proposals, both of them, that is to look at or to approve the courses tonight?
To move move for approval of this course. It's for approval.
Can you just speak, do you have a minute to speak about the two courses and what they entail?
Of course, Technology Society, Careers class.
The Technology Society and Careers class is sort of like an internship course, or not internship as much as students will be working in the tech hub with the tech people learning the IT side of the course. Now, it's a course proposal, so what the course is going to look like will go to Education Committee when it's actually developed. This is approving the teachers to actually develop the course. So this is their initial idea, and then the course will be approved down the right.
Okay, so it's not for
Does that make
course approval, it's to start looking into and creating.
sense? Correct. It's a course title proposal.
Great.
So yes.
And then the
now
curriculum will be
development will
discussed.
happen, yes.
All right. Mr. Oliver, HR?
Thank you, Mr. Marini. The Human Resources Committee met on December 13th. We discussed a change in the stipend for webmaster. We took action on that, which is going to be on the agenda for this evening. We had 2 personnel matters to discuss. We continue to talk about the staffing issues, and Mr. Goodhue had made a volunteer at one of the meetings who would help us with that. We've tried to gather information with resignations and retirees. So in collaboration with the union, we're going to invite Mr. Goodhue into an ad hoc committee where we could work on a survey to try to gather some additional data and stop the bleeding and stop losing people within the district, whether it's through retirement or on for better positions. So more to come with that. And that was pretty much our meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Oliver. So now we're going to move on to comments from the board on the action agenda. We very much welcome input from the public. During board meetings, there will be 2 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be open for public comment, where members of the public are invited to comment, which they may do if they are attending in person. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about items that are listed on tonight's agenda before the board votes. During the second public comment period, members of the public may comment on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district per bylaw 0167. Before you state your comment, you will be asked to provide your name and address. There is a 3-minute limit on public comment. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or acting superintendent will address the comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. Kindly note that the Open Public Meeting Act and the privacy rights of public employees encompassed therein do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. Are there any comments or questions on the action agenda?
Good evening, Reverend Rodney Williams, 101 Everett Close. I have a question on the HR from the HR sector. like to know how we get access to your efforts to create more diversity within the staffing ranks, and what are your plans going forward to increase the numbers of ethnic minorities within the staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good evening. How are you? My name is Joyce Eldridge Howard. I live at 75 Weber Avenue. As a resident and taxpayer and a former educator, I'm beyond concerned, like so many others, about the issues reported by the local news outlets. And recently I read, just like everyone else, that the board appointed Dr. Feltry as acting superintendent, and her job responsibilities would be expanded to include the role of, according to the outlets, it said purchasing agent. I see tonight it's temporary purchasing agent, and board secretary, which tonight I see it's acting board secretary, for which she will be compensated. However, I have some concerns for the following reasons. Dr. Feltry was just appointed acting superintendent just weeks ago, under the dark cloud, and this appointment has been formalized this evening. Additionally, the board has chosen and then expanded Dr. Feltry's responsibilities to include purchasing agent and board secretary. As I said before, temporary purchasing agent and acting board secretary. In my opinion, this plan of action seems to be, to me, as a setup to fail. I have a copy of the Rutgers course requirements for a qualified PA, and it's extensive. As we all know, but maybe some residents may not know, the full spectrum of a superintendent's responsibilities. The superintendent is the top executive CEO in the school district, which includes making day-to-day decisions about educational programs, spending, staff, and facilities. The superintendent hires, supervises, and manages the central office staff and principals. Superintendents must work with school teachers, with school leaders, principals, to serve the needs of students and meet the district goals. A school purchasing agent and board secretary's responsibilities include a different set of skills. Now, I have worked closely with the superintendent in a former district, and I know things come up. A lot of things come up that you don't even expect, and there's always a lot of in and out, in addition to those other responsibilities. Now, tell me what you were thinking when you edit temporary purchasing agent and interim board secretary to Dr. Feltry's responsibilities. Although those positions are not permanent, that's a lot of accountability for which she will be responsible. Appointing a purchasing agent QPC certification at a time like this, when the district has financial problems, makes me wonder. Isn't there a committee that reviews financials or budget items? I would very strongly suggest that the board hire a business administrator as soon as possible, or at least an interim. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Hi, good evening, Philip Yans, 94 Marshall Road. I see the new temporary appointments for Dr. Feltry are just that, they're temporary. What was not clear to me was the salary increase that she is receiving commensurate with these, on whether that is temporary or permanent. I would sincerely hope that it is temporary, as we should not be adding permanent salary increases for temporary assignments. And just if the board could clarify that, I'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the action agenda?
Hi, good evening. My name is Stefania Lopez. I live in Stone River Road. The Title IX first reading that was presented in the document, the minutes, the agenda, it's kind of self-referential in the way that it defines severity. It says certain things will be taken in a way determined based on their severity. And then in the section in severity, it says to go back and reference. So there's a problem in how that language is worded. I'm specifically referring to gender discrimination. It's very vague. There's a lot of mays and coulds and cans and shoulds in the early part where it's defined. And it's talking about the severity. And then later on, a couple pages later, in the section where it describes severity, it specifically says on its, like, a line by itself, gender discrimination instead of sex discrimination. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's meaningless. It's toothless. I also don't appreciate the commentary that's included on the presentation of the policy. If it's a mandated state policy, then the board's opinions of why it shouldn't work are quite frankly irrelevant. Your job is to implement it. And if you don't like that, then you shouldn't have run for this position. So the Rutgers Title IX policies are really good. If you're looking for a template for something to read that is more clear and more accurately bounds the problem, particularly for discrimination on gender. And I'll also point out that I looked at Montgomery's, because you guys are like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do this. Their policy hasn't been updated since 1999 for Title IX. So there is some sort of miscommunication on what the policy is, why it's being done, and the board's feelings about it, which quite frankly are none of the board's business. Like, your job is to implement it. And if you didn't like that, you shouldn't be here. Your job is to do what is right for the kids in this town, and to follow the laws of the state of New Jersey, not to proselytize and introduce your views to commentary in minutes for the school, and to show up here claiming that you have some sort of authority far beyond what you actually do. And I am looking right at you, Mr. Albanese. Please review this policy. It is not clear and it is not appropriate.
Thank you. Any more public comment on the action agenda? Okay, so we'll move on to the first section, appointments. The board recommends the following. Motion to approve the appointment of acting superintendent, 13.2. Motion to approve the appointment of temporary purchasing agent, and 13.3, motion to approve the appointment of acting board secretary. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? None? Oh, sorry, Mr. Dutt?
Yeah, so it's my understanding, Mr. President, that, that these positions are required for the school district to function. And by statute, I think we have to have somebody, we have to name a purchasing agent. We have to have a board secretary. Yes, they are temporary. And everything about it is temporary,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, I think the question around payment was also
I believe that's temporary also, if you need to
That's
confirm that.
yes.
For the
We can
length
double-
of the time that
Correct.
Dr. Felder's acting in these secondary roles.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Nurse?
I would just like to add to Mr. Gillette that we are currently seeking an interim as soon as possible for the BA.
All right, if no further comments, we'll take roll.
Mr. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Dio?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's agenda.
All right. The acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the education agenda 14.1 through 14.6 as follows. 14.1, motion to approve professional travel-related expenses. Motion to affirm the acting superintendent's harassment, intimidation, and bullying determination for the attached cases. Motion to approve staff for the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund 2, ESSER 2 mathematics learning acceleration program. Motion to approve new course proposals. Motion to approve course title changes, and motion to approve policies and regulations for first reading.
Can I get a motion and a second? All
So moved.
Second.
right, roll, please. Ms. Rodriguez? Oh, sorry, any discussion from the board?
Probably is not, but you have to say.
All right, Ms. Rodriguez, if you take roll.
Mr. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter? Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Keo?
Yes.
Motion's passed.
The acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the Human Resources Agenda 15.1 through 15.10 as follows. Motion to approve resignations. Motion to approve employee agreement. Motion to approve revised middle school coaches. Motion to approve revised seventh period coverage. Motion to approve appointments. Motion to approve seventh period coverage. Motion to approve leaves of absences. Motion to approve mentors and buddies. Motion to approve student teachers. And motion to approve extra coverage.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we take roll.
Sure. Mr. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter? Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Keo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion's passed.
Now we'll go on to the acting superintendent's report.
Wait, 16.
Oh, sorry, one more.
Okay.
16, sorry.
Yep. The acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the operations agenda 16.1 through 16.2 as follows. Motion to approve statement of assurance and motion to approve designation of signatories.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Rodriguez, can we take roll?
Sure. Mr. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Kidd?
Yes.
Ms. Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Marini?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Keo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The National Day of Racial Healing, we've done this for the past several years. And we're putting forth for the board the National Day of Racial Healing Proclamation, and I will read it. Whereas we have all witnessed racial divisiveness rising in America's urban, rural, suburban, and tribal communities today that threatens the very core of this great country's unified front. And whereas just like those who came before us, it is our duty to protect the children of this country and maintain communities in which they may all be given the opportunity to succeed. And whereas we understand and recognize that there is a racial divide in our country, and we must all work earnestly to heal the wounds created by racial, ethnic, and religious bias and build an equitable and just society so that all children can thrive. And whereas children have the right to be provided every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in nurturing environments that don't violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. And whereas every person has the capability to make a simple change within him or herself that can have a profound effect on an entire society. And whereas if we all dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation, we can all bring about the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel this great country forward as a unified force where racial biases will become a thing of the past. And whereas racial healing is a vital and crucial commitment to the education, social, mental, and overall well-being of all of our children. And whereas Hillsborough Township Public Schools, in conjunction with others throughout the United States of America, acknowledges January 18, 2022 as the National Day of Racial Healing and urges all citizens to promote racial healing and transformation in the ways that are best suited for them individually as a means to working together to ensure the best quality of life for every child. Now, therefore, Hillsborough Township Public Schools hereby proclaims that this organization honors and recognizes January 18, 2022 as the National Day of Racial Healing.
Thank you, Dr. Felshry.
Yep. And I do have some words and some acknowledgments for the community. So, good evening. Welcome back to school and Happy New Year. I hope everyone enjoyed the holidays and time off from school. For those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Kim Feltry, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, and as you recently heard, I will be serving as the district's acting superintendent during Dr. Antunis's leave of absence. Thank you to the parents and teachers for your flexibility and understanding as we navigate the challenges of providing instruction during this rising surge of COVID cases. This was a very difficult decision, but the shift to virtual instruction was necessary to best ensure instruction would continue. We are aware of the hardships the shift poses to students, staff, and parents, and we are committed to resuming in-person instruction as soon as we can. It is a pleasure to share with you that 10 students from Hillsborough High School were selected to participate in this year's New Jersey Music Education Association's Region Chorus. Mr. Chris Ireland, District Supervisor of Visual and Performing Arts and related areas, shared that over 450 students auditioned from all over central New Jersey. One senior, Sonia Sinha, was ranked number 2 in the region, and 6 others placed in the top 15 in the region. Congratulations to the sopranos Sonia Sinha, Maya Sani, Ellie Bice, Hasini Waden, Elizabeth LeBouf, altos Savani Baedia, Elena Maria Waddleton, Isha Puntambikar, tenor Andrew Van Lagen, bass Liam Bettel. And I would also like to share a special shout out to Woodfern Elementary School 3rd grader Benjamin Steinhauser, who was chosen to represent New Jersey in this year's Kids Baking Championship on Food Network and Discovery Plus. The season premiered on December 27th, and it is exciting to report that Benjamin moved on to the next episode after completing a task of making a butterfly cake. The 10-week competition will test the contestants in themed challenges from kitchen sink sweets to cream puffs to cupcakes. Ben is quoted as saying, "Tiered cakes will probably be my biggest challenge in the competition. I think it's safe to say that most adults find that baking a layer cake is daunting, and we wish Ben good luck."
Thank you, Dr. Feltry. All right. We will now move on to our second public comment session. I'll repeat the following. We very much appreciate input from the public. During board meetings, there'll be 2 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be open for public comment, where members of the public are invited to comment, which they may do if they are attending in person. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about items that are listed on tonight's agenda before the board votes. During this second public comment period, members of the public may comment on any school or district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district as per bylaw 0167. Before you state your comment, you'll be asked to provide your name and address. There is a 3-minute limit on public comment. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as a question and answer session, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or acting superintendent will address the comment. There may be times that a member of the public makes comment or asks questions about personnel or hiring decisions. Kindly note that the Open Public Meetings Act and the privacy rights of public employees encompassed therein do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. Again, this is public input on the 2022-2023 budget and or general public comment.
Hi, my name is Erin Kelly. I call 5 Hartford Place home, and I have a child currently attending Auten Road. I submitted for today's meeting a correspondence entitled Future School Referendums. As I watch our township grow with new housing, I'm honestly very concerned about the impact these multifamily residences will have on Hillsborough schools. I do not believe our township is prepared to handle the influx of students, particularly in our high school, which is why I wrote a letter and why I'm here tonight. I believe the Board of Education needs to use 2022 to develop a viable future prospectus for families so our township can have a formal action plan to enhance the quality and the safety of our schools. In my letter, I first raised a concern about the impact on student-teacher ratio. A little bit of research into this pointed me to a few references to 12 students to 1, which is the New Jersey state average, 13.6 to 1, and specific to the high school, 14 to 1. But let's be honest, that's not the reality that the majority of our children experience inside the walls of our schools here. And secondly, something I know that's been on many parents and students' minds, the inadequateness of our high school. I hear horror stories of how students don't even use their lockers because of the crowding in the hallways and the potential to be late to class. And just ahead of the new year, when you all originally determined that the elementary schools and the intermediate school could stay open, but the middle school and high school would have to switch to virtual, was to me public validation that our schools serving 7th to 12th graders are overcrowded, and this is concerning for us parents. I referenced a source called School Diggory and found that in 1988, Hillsborough High had approximately 1,200 students, 94 full-time teachers. As of tonight's enrollment sheet, that school supports more than 2,300 students. So if I did my math correctly, we nearly doubled the student body. We've done the same with teaching staff, yet the buildings remain relatively the same. We've seen the human population grow immensely, which means the physical environment likely needs to greatly expand too. If we don't act swiftly, what do we risk? We may lose out on land options should we need to build or extend the current footprint of school properties. We potentially reduce the desirability of calling Hillsborough home and could see our home values decline. And most importantly, we will fail our children on delivering what an optimal education should be in our town. It's unfortunately we haven't assessed and addressed these educational needs of our township as the number of family dwellings continue to rise. The high school facility was erected in 1969 before my home was built, and I bet long before the homes of a majority of people sitting in this room today were built. And the last time we opened a new school was when Amsterdam opened in 1990, after overcapacity at Woods Road, a critical change precipitated by what? New housing developments. So as we see construction on many major corners in our town, I implore the board to do your due diligence and put forth a proposal to enhance our facilities, namely for our high school. And as I shared in my email, if the board can do that, it's up to us parents and parent groups to bring in the votes for any referendums to successfully move forward. So I thank you for listening, and I thank you for your service to our community's youngest members.
Thank you very much for your comment.
That means the working time. You can't do it perfect. No.
Reverend Rodney Williams again from 101 Everett Close. I was struck by the old phrase that actions speak louder than words, and I heard the resolution that was read regarding the Day of Racial Healing, and I guess it just seemed almost farcical that there's a focus on a single day, and I also heard that the organization of the HBOE is focused on trying to ensure that there is a fair and equitable community. When I see a group of board members with very little color in it, and as I said, I've been to this, I believe is my 3rd or 4th board meeting. And each time I've expressed the concern regarding diversity, regarding equity and inclusion. And I've yet to have any board member extend even a casual hello in my direction when I've simply asked for things like a meeting with the superintendent. And so I just stand to say that, I think, as I said, actions speak an awful lot louder than words. And I would certainly look forward to there being more action when it comes to inclusiveness, when it comes to the focus on the fact that the demographics of the community are changing, and yet if we don't have any way to ensure that the board itself is reaching out to those diverse members of the community to get input and feedback, then it seems that more empty words than action. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Reverend.
Hi again, Stefania Alakowitz from Stone River Road. So I'm trans, like, I'm not gonna hide anything, right? I'm as trans as it gets, and I'm very proud of it. This Board of Education, members who are seated here today, do not have a good history and a good record in the minutes of doing their job as mandated by the state to protect transgender children, Mr. Gillette. I read the minutes. It's mandated by the state. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be here. Mr. Albanese, I'm going to tell you the same thing. You said in your notes about running for election that you wanted to hear the good and the bad. Guess what? I'm here, and your good is my bad and vice versa. So I hope you're ready to listen to it, because the Constitution and your little mask crusade has nothing to do with the responsibilities of this body. And your farce to come in here and inflame our community through lies and misinformation are just unconscionable. It's really a damn shame that this body, whose job it is to provide for the children of our community, has the audacity to have members on it who would make a mandatory state policy something of contention. That is despicable. And I agree with the Reverend, even though I am not a religious person at all, as many transgender people are not. But you know what? Looking at this town and looking at the people that are in this room and looking at the people that are in the classrooms, where's your trans employee? I know you can't tell me. I know you can't tell me. Okay? Where's your your kid's trans friend? One group, I'm sorry, it takes two people in one group of 69 for there to be two transgender people together. Think about what that means for that school. Think about what that means for that football team. Funny I bring that up, and it's funny that tonight Title IX is on the agenda. That little parade shenanigan for the football team, a boys-only sport with fire trucks and sirens. You want to talk about Title IX? I have lived in this town since 2013. When has the every single year since then girls swimming state championship been celebrated with a parade through town on fire trucks? It's transparent. It is old-fashioned. Ms. Feltry, I apologize. I sent the email regarding the parades to Dr. Antunes on the day that she stepped away, so I did not get that to you in time with the holidays. But you want to talk about Title IX? You want to talk about like easy, obvious stuff? Don't put your boys' football team on the highway. Come on, like easy, easy, easy. I'll see you again next month, folks.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Ed Yarshinsky. I live at 3380 East Mountain Road. And I'd just like to make a comment to the board. While I fully support in-person instruction for all of our students, I have a son in the 9th grade at Hillsborough High School. I understand and appreciate the reason why we went this week to full day virtual. But while we did so, I just want to commend that decision, which is much different than we had in the past, for live full day virtual instruction rather than half a day, attendance taken each class period, and Google Meets where the students have to appear on camera where it's required was excellent. All right, I sat with my student today, with my son, and I watched as the teachers did their job, and I thought it was much better than the situation we had last year. So I just want you to know that. That's how I feel. And I hope if we do have to go virtual in the future, that that's the way it's done. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, under correspondence, my name is spelled wrong. It's Y-A-R-U-S-I-N-S-K-Y. I believe in there it says Y-A-R-U-S-N. There are some people, it's Y-A-R-U-S-I-N-S-K-Y. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Philip Gans, 94 Marshall Road. Good evening. First, I want to say that I am deeply disappointed that our schools are once again virtual. After one day, it remains painfully obvious that virtual school is not an effective learning tool, nor is it a replacement for being physically present in school. I implore the district to find a way to get the children back in school as soon as possible. If this turns into weeks or, God forbid, months of virtual school, our children will only fall further behind for a virus which has been shown to be less deadly to children than the flu, and we would have never done this for the flu. I also want to comment tonight on the guest speaker at one of the November board meetings from the NJSBA, Mr. DeLucia. Mr. DeLucia, as you may recall, spoke to us about implicit bias. His key takeaway was that we are all implicitly biased, including our children, and that if we say we aren't, we are just blind to our own biases. In his view, he has already decided that I'm a biased person, even though he's never met me. And he has decided that each of you on this board are also biased. And my guess is he does not have a personal relationship with each of you. He knows this is true, he says, because that's what his data tells him. We and our children are not data points. We're people. And making assumptions about people you don't know, as Mr. DeLucia did, seems to be the very definition of bias. Perhaps Mr. DeLucia should look in the mirror before casting stones. I sincerely hope that his philosophies are not influencing the curriculum here in Hillsborough. Teaching our children that they are biased because someone else said so is the definition of bias and should have no place in our schools. I firmly believe we should teach our children to follow the golden rule, to treat others as they would like to be treated. It's not hard. Finally, I ask that the 2 new board members who were elected on the promise of standing up for our children and returning this district to normalcy stand firm in those beliefs, even when things are difficult. Please don't forget, although we may not always be the loudest voices in the room, there are a lot of parents who support you. And we're counting on you to follow through on your promises and to stand up for our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Heather Larico, 23 Bloomingdale Drive. I had no intention of speaking tonight, but after attending board meetings for the last few months, I felt it was necessary. We're 2 years into this, and it continues to astound me that the adults in the room cannot act as the adults in the room. My son graduated in 2020. We didn't have a graduation. We didn't have a prom. But guess what? He understood, and he agreed. My youngest is a senior this year. We might not have a prom. I don't know what the rest of his senior year is going to look like. But guess what? He understood. Be the adults in the room. Continue to do the right thing and put the safety of our children first. And if the district is interested in combating the mis and disinformation that we continue to hear, please consider looking into the News Literacy Project, which has a fantastic program called Checkology, which would not only help the adults in the room, but also our children learn to sift through the mis and disinformation that continues to be espoused, unfortunately, by members of the board and other members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any additional public comment? All right, with that, I will close public comment. We are going to move,
Do we have another shot? Board?
I think
Comment?
the board can give any comment they would like
Okay.
at this point.
So first, I'd like to address Ms. Kelly. Is she still here? Oh, yeah, there you go. So I appreciate your comments very much. We are aware that especially the high school is very crowded. One thing, though, the high school did, I believe, have 2 major expansions since 1988. It doesn't take away from your point, but I just wanted you to be correct. It's not the same school that had 1,200 students in 1988. It had a couple of expansions. But we went to this issue about 5-6 years ago when we did our last, what's what I'm looking for? What's that? No, when we looked at our long-range plans within the last 5 years or so, we looked at the schools, and we're continuing to look at that. So I wanted to say that. Also, just in general, as we begin another year, I'd like to think that, I've been put on the board now 5 times. And I'd like to think that at least the majority of the public in Hillsborough agrees with me, or at least the plurality on most issues. That's why I've been back 5 different times. But I at least know that 1/9 of the public agrees with me on any issue. I'm confident in that. So I'm going to keep representing at least 1/9 of the public because I'm 1/9 of this board, and I'm not going to be cowed into not representing the people that put me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Any other board comment? Okay, with that, the board is going to move back into executive session. The board will not be returning to public session. There will be no additional actions taken. We will close the meeting from the executive session. Do we need to reread the executive session?
I think to go into make a motion, I think you have to just read. Okay. Ask for a motion.
Okay. Give me a motion and a second for moving into executive session.
So moved.
For matters of personnel.
For matters of personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Rodriguez, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.